All right, guys, look behind you. Say, "Auf Wiedersehen, America." Meal prep with me while I tell you random things about military life. He's here too. Testing. Do you think it's working?
Yeah.
How do we know?
I guess we don't.
Psst. Psst. It works. Wow. I can make ASMR content.
No, you're not.
Should I? Okay. All right, my intro. Should I whisper?
No, you don't need to whisper.
That's what they do. Oh my God.
Just talk normally.
This is so fun. You want to wear it, don't you?
No.
I'm going to give you a turn later. We completed our 5th PCS, which stands for Permanent Change of Station, which is quite ironic because it's actually not permanent. This guy has been in the military for 17 years. This is our 5th PCS. We've been to Japan, Germany, Arizona, Florida, and now we're back in Germany. When you PCS overseas, you stay in a place called TLF, Temporary Lodging Facility, and it's essentially like an apartment. This is where we are right now. That's why it looks like I have hospital lighting. It's terribly ugly. Whoever designed this should be in jail. But it's much better than a hotel. We have a full kitchen. We each have our own bedroom and a moderately comfortable bed. It's been 5 years since we've lived on a military base, so some random things that you might find interesting that I had forgotten about. At 5 p.m., they play the national anthem over a loudspeaker, and if you are outside, you have to stop and put your hand over your heart. If you're in uniform, you have to stand at attention. If you're driving, stop, put your hazards on, and roll your windows down. If you're in a foreign country, like we are, they also play the foreign national anthem. So here in Germany, they play the German national anthem, and then they play the Star-Spangled Banner. I don't know how it is if there's a movie theater on base in the States, but overseas they play the national anthem before the movie starts. So before the movie trailers start playing, the national anthem is going to play and you need to stand up and put your hand over your heart. We have access to the gyms here on base, whether you are active duty or you're the dependent, which is what I'm called, unfortunately. We can use all of these gyms, any gym on base, for free of charge, but there is a dress code. You can't wear your sports bra, you can't wear crop tops, your midriff can't be showing, and you can't wear shorts too short. You cannot have huge cutouts on the sides. It needs to be covered. When you move overseas, you get to take all of your stuff with you, but it takes a really long time. I shipped all of our household goods on December 11th. It is now February 5th, and we have no idea when it will arrive. We have been in TLF for 3 weeks, and we have a week and a half left before our house is ready. While we wait for our things to be delivered, we get a delivery from FMO, which stands for Furnishings Management Office, where you get temporary furniture, beds, dressers, beds, dressers, nightstands, basically anything that you need in order to function while you wait for your things to arrive. Since we are in Germany, most of our electronics don't work here. They have a different voltage. So obviously in the US we have 110, and over here in Germany they have 220. So I did not bring any of our kitchen appliances. I donated every single one of them, and we are purchasing new. When we sold our house, we left our washer and dryer in the house, and we will get a European washer and dryer from FMO that we essentially just return when it's time to move again. I think a lot of people are curious about how housing works, so we will rent a house off base, and Brandon gets something called Overseas Housing Allowance. It is the amount that you get is based on your rank. If you choose to live in a house that is over your OHA, then you will pay that out of pocket. Otherwise, you will get your full OHA amount, and that will cover your rent. Over here, you also get something called a utilities allowance, and that will cover your utilities while you live here. You also get something called COLA, cost of living allowance, that is meant to offset the higher costs living overseas. It is based on the conversion rate between the euro and the dollar. Right now, the euro and the dollar are almost 1-to-1, so I don't really know that COLA will be as high as it was when we were here before. If you're not familiar with the military, going on base is essentially another city, and it really rings true when you're overseas. The area that we're in has roughly 50,000 Americans in it. While you can heavily immerse yourself in the culture, there's also a big touch of home here as well. The options might be more limited, but truly anything that you need, you can get on base. There are Department of Defense libraries where you can go utilize the library just like you would anywhere else in the world. They have a lot of online options as well. They have their own online library, so if you like to take things out on your Kindle. That is an option. Something that's interesting for people that aren't familiar with it is we have, I think, 11 schools in this community that are all on base. Have everything that an American school would, to include sports teams that play against other bases, band, all of the extracurriculars you could imagine, and even buses that bus them in. So the village that we're going to live in is not far from base, but my kids will be able to be bused in. The buses here are not like a yellow school bus, they're like a city bus. Luckily, technology is a lot more advanced now, and Brandon and I both have phones that have a dual SIM. So we're actually paying for 2 phone services, but we both like to have our American phone number, and then we also need a German phone number. So we have 1 phone, but a German phone number and a US phone number. So while a lot of bases play the national anthem around 5 p.m., some bases will also play taps in the evening, just generally before bedtime. This is up to the commander's discretion. The only base that we've been at that they've done that is at Davis-Monthan in Tucson. When you move overseas, you can also ship your car. So you're not going to a country where they drive on the opposite side of the road. Actually, I think you can even take it then. You can, but it's not going to be convenient. You're going to want a car that has the steering wheel on the proper side. We were able to ship 1 car overseas. So what we've done in the past is we have 1 American car, and then we have 1 European spec car. That is just, you know, not as nice, something that just gets Brandon to and from work, a commuter car, if you will. We didn't ship our car until the middle of January, so we're expecting it probably in March, but boy, when I tell you I am anxious to have it. I shipped an SUV, and most people drive pretty small cars here in Europe, so that's going to be tricky. Something that I think some people might find interesting is that we get a passport issued by the government. It's called a no-fee official passport. It's one that we don't have to pay for, but it is for official travel only. So we use that to travel to and from the States when we're traveling on orders. So when we moved here, we had to have an official passport from the government. Then we also have to apply for our travel passports if we plan to travel outside of Germany. Obviously, we do. This move has been especially interesting because we spent 5 years in Florida, and it was the first base where we had our own home. So this has probably been the biggest adjustment for us, and we're nowhere near being settled. Speaking of all of the amenities that are on base, I mentioned that it is like its own city. There is a mall. It's called the BX, but the BX here at Ramstein is actually the biggest BX in the world. The full food court to include Popeyes, Taco Bell, Starbucks, Panda Express, Subway, Baskin Robbins, all sorts of things.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts. There's a movie theater, all of the American brands. In addition to that, there is a commissary, which is the grocery store. The commissary here is huge too. And you can get a lot of the things that you would get in a stateside grocery store. Not everything, but they have a good variety. The only downfall that I've noticed with that so far since being back here and after spending time in Florida is that there's not a lot of generic brands to choose from. So I'm an Aldi shopper, a Walmart shopper, a Sam's Club shopper, and I always buy the generic brands, and that's simply not an option here. There is a generic brand that is called Freedom's Choice. It's like the military's version, but they don't have a lot of options. Of course, once we get more settled, I'll try to do most of my shopping off base, but right now it's still so new and a lot of it's still very overwhelming for me. So once I get more comfortable in translating my entire grocery list, then I'll probably try to do most of my shopping off base. Full healthcare here on base as well. So Ramstein has a clinic. They're in the process of building a new hospital. Fun fact, they started the plans for building this hospital when we were here 10 years ago. From my understanding, the hospital is not done. There is a full hospital on another base nearby called Landstuhl. This is a big military hospital. It's the hospital where Audrey was born 12 and a half years ago. This is also the hub for if there's wounded warriors in the Middle East or wherever, they bring them to Landstuhl. So there's good doctors there. You do have the option to switch your TRICARE coverage and see your provider off base, but I don't know how common that is here. There are a lot of people that retire here as well, and then they just stay. They get a government contracted job on base and they're able to stay here. Also, fun fact, you do not have to be associated with the military to get a job and relocate here. They post openings at all of the overseas bases. You can, if you're a teacher or a healthcare professional, you can try to get a job overseas. Sometimes they offer relocation benefits, meaning that they pay for your relocation. I don't know how common that is, but there's definitely people here on base that are not actually affiliated with the military at all. They are just government employees. I just want to add that while it's really, really cool that we get to move every few years, and it's really cool that we get the opportunity to live overseas, this is really hard. Our kids are at an age where it's really hard on them. It's really hard to uproot your life. I mean, Brandon's 36 and I'm 34, and we don't own a home. We are in a place where we basically sold or donated all of our things. We also get to give our kids an experience that most people don't. And eventually we'll settle down. Okay, let me know if you have any other questions. I'm an open book.